How do we tell stories about ourselves? Because the stories we tell about ourselves is the way we understand each other and the way we tell our world to the others, and how we connect with others, and how we distinguish ourselves from the rest of the people. So I believe that we're living in an age where these stories are so multiple because our experiences are a lot richer than they used to be. Because we're born in one place, we're studying in another, join us. And then we move to a totally different one. So at some point, you stop being from your home country, but you're never going to become from the new place where you live in. So you're staying in between, you're staying in the border. And I believe that we are sort of becoming a supranation that is separated from all the rest. We're not the same. The people who are at this level, we're not identical to each other. We don't share a basic culture, but still there is a additional culture that we create, that we share, that makes us a group with its own identity, which is our experiences, our globetrotter culture, everyone living it in their own way. There is a term in American law that's called legal aliens that makes us all legal aliens because we come to a new country, we get legalized, and we come from abroad. I have a friend who calls himself, also belonging to this group of people, who calls himself Global Trash. I refuse to adopt this name. So, and what I want to offer you is to reflect on this, to have a small talk of how do you perceive this, what is your experience, and is it actually something that is happening to us that is coming in the future? And are we actually becoming a new nation, and how can we manage it, and how can we work? I would suggest that when someone speaks, we just start with this small exercise, trying to present ourselves. I'm still looking as well, so I'm still looking for my story. So I'll start, and it's a try, it's not a very well-defined thing. I'm Daria. I'm a woman. I come from a conservative Slavic northern culture. But I've traveled around and I'm integrated to the Mediterranean environment, and I'm looking to find balance between tech and beauty, being beauty, fashion, art, and human relationship.
Thank you. I guess it's my turn then.
It's your turn. I've told him that with the cup he looks like Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's true.
So I'm not Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm Sebastian.
That's good to start with.
I am a technologist, but I have an interest in everything that has to do with technology. And recently I'm also moving into the softer side of things. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm interested. I live by a mantra that is, I should be on vacation 90% of the time. I should feel like I am on vacation 90% of the time. And when I say vacation, it's not the it's not the typical going on vacation kind of thing, but it's the mindset that you have when you go abroad that I'm searching for. The openness, the willingness to experience new things, and the willingness to take in foreign ideas and play.
Thank you. And how do you perceive your identity in this discourse? What is your perception of yourself in the world? Are you Danish? Are you...
It's an interesting question. I don't really I don't really feel like I'm Danish. I don't really feel like I belong to the Danish government. I believe that you belong to your community, and yeah, I think we're gonna, in the future, I think governments, physical governments, is gonna be a thing of the past.
What is your community?
My community is my friends, and my colleagues, my family, and the people that I surround myself with.
How do we choose this surrounding? How do we, what is the criteria that we use to create our own environment, our own community in this traveling around the world dynamic?
I think there's some kind of magnetism. When you go to a place that is new, it can be a new work or a new city or new environment. Probably you start some kind of activities but by obligation because it's your new work or your interest or whatever, and automatically you start feeling coincidence with people and kind of magnetism that you feel like being more time with some kind of people because there is something that at the beginning you don't know that attract each other and makes that, for example, here we are 100 people, and probably when we go out from here we will remain better. Some people will, which we have had some kind of conversations and that we really would like to have another opportunity to meet. So, but it's not something that you are looking for. I'm going to look for a person that is like this, like this, like this. It's just a question of magnetism. It's my theory.
You want to talk to it?
Just still formulating.
I'll introduce you to what we did so far.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting is in how the world works today, we no longer, people who are here, belong to our birth culture because we travel around and we're slightly disconnected from our origins, but we'll never be connected totally to our new place of living. And so we are like another new layer of people who maybe somehow or someday will become a new nation and a new group. And in general, what I'm suggesting is to define how can we tell our story, what mechanisms do we use to express ourselves, what is an identity now for us, and how can we form this into a group, because for now we are perceived as individuals traveling around but disconnected from one another and from the rest of the world. I think there is a lack of education for us and for people who we meet when we come to a new place, and I would like just to put us on a map.
I immediately try to create a community everywhere. Immediately.
How do you do it?
First thing I do, I say hello to strangers. And I try to make them comfortable. I make real effort to get to know my neighbors, right? Also, I always behave in a way that's very informal. Second thing I do is I always join the martial arts around where I live, because especially the English, for example, are very cold. But the fighters have usually been to prison, or they're very humble and very relatable, and with me I get along with the fighters very well. So that is a safety for me. I always know that I'll find people like me there. But that's not enough. I think that we really need to be in touch with people that we live around. I think it's really bad. Actually, I don't like it. Yeah, I travel a lot, but we don't have a community of... Okay, I think we're disconnected, and I don't know if that's a community. I try the opposite. I try to say, okay, it's true, I don't really live here. Like, I lived in Thailand, I lived in the UK, I lived in California, I lived in Israel. So I say, okay, I don't really live here, but I want to immerse myself in where I am right now with the people that are alive around me right now as best as I can, which means paying attention to the local culture, and it means trying to participate. I really try to make friends. I try to learn the language, but I know they've seen it 1,000 times that like people pass by. And I try to make real connections. I always invite people to my home, and I always explain it's a real invite. It's not easy to do, but when it's successful, it feels so good. Like it feels more like a home. I like when people care about each other, like a little bit. You know, having good neighbors is a big plus, and having bad relationships with your neighbors adds a lot of stress to life. You live right next to them. Who needs every day a discussion about, did you see what they did? You know, that happens. No, I'm finished. That's what I have to say. Do you think we'll be able, as nomads, to have some kind of nomadic community? How?
That's actually.
It's based on the values, I think. There is something you said that takes me to the line that I would like to take you all. You said English are cold. Every nation, for now, has sort of stereotype, kind of description of a psychological type of habits or whatever. So the question is, do we have this as a group of nomads?
Do we have our? I don't
Is there
know.
something that unites us?
So let's start from that. So first of all, there's always an us and a them, right?
Is
I'll
there?
give you an anecdotal example. So I was born in England, grew up in Italy, then went to Israel, did the army, now I live in Portugal, California, all around. So living as in sort of having a place to live for a few years. And one of the things I remember coming out of Israel and until the age of 13 I was out of Israel, and then from 13 to 26 or something I was in Israel. And at some point I remember going for the first time after army or university, I went for a conference or something abroad, and I met a Chinese-Irish man, and it was the most shocking thing for me. Like, Chinese-Irish, you know, it's like, suddenly I realized how stuck I am in preconceptions of identity, or, you know, or like, as Ashkenazi, liberal Israeli, we were like all pro-Arab, right? But by definition, there's us and them. And then again, traveling, I met a lot of Arabs, and suddenly I realized how I'm stuck in my prejudice about there's still an us and a them. No matter how, you know, even if I marry one, there's still an us and a them. And I don't know if you can ever get rid of that.
The presence was being present, and that having those strong connections was useful. But then there were some physical limitations that were completely made up. Physical borders that come from the 18th century, when people were going around horses and the mountain was a wall, and then you see, okay, as distances start becoming smaller and smaller, and we're more and more connected, it's up to us to decide what to do with it. And then what do we do with governance, and what do we do with sharing, and what will connect us in this work? And I at this point I have more questions than answers. I like to pay taxes, split a part of it and share it with one community that I relate to, because I think I'm going to learn from them, I can help them, share it with others, spend time with people that I care about and they care. And I still haven't found, I'm learning through it. As I'm going through different countries, in different places, engaging with people, I still don't know how to best do it. And I think this is conversation. And I think this is probably the starting point. But to me, I see we're evolving very fast. And we still, and it's not, I think you mentioned before, yesterday, Facebook, you know, how about we all live in Facebook? It still is not, that's not, you know, it's a good representation of what could be, but then you're missing the local presence, that there is something here, I don't know, maybe it may be Hyperloop everywhere, right? I want to be in 10 minutes everywhere that I have a connection, and then physical limitations go away. But, or maybe be more connected to yourself.
We have to identify ourselves in relation to others. So who is us? Who is us? And I think Facebook is an interest. If you look at your Facebook friends, you'll discover that, you know, a lot about yourself and who you think merits to being your Facebook friend, because typically you don't just let anybody into your Facebook friends, right? Somebody randomly, I mean, it depends on your Facebook culture, but either you're a hoarder of Facebook friends, you've got, you know...
No, I like to
5,000,
experiment.
but
Like it
it's-
for marketing purposes.
But there is, if you look in Europe, so there's been like 10,000 years of slaughtering each other. There's always an us and a them is a really bad thing, and they're worth killing, right? In the last 40 years, we have football. And football has basically saved Europe. I believe football has largely saved Europe from slaughtering each other, because it's a simulation. It's like a video game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
point. I've never thought about that.
Like rollerball, there's a film about that. You know rollerball?
Yeah, I saw it.
We'll talk about it some other day.
So I think, just
So-
trying to get my hand around identity, I think for me, what I identify with is people who are approaching life from a certain perspective. And, you know, I'm from Florida, a little bit outside of a place in Fort Lauderdale where a lot of people went to school in Florida, never really left. And when I talk about where I'm from in the States, I tend not to even say Florida because I'll never be there. I don't identify with these people. And even my brother, he's a doctor, he wants a different life. And I know we're part of the same family, but now when I look at the community and the nomads and people I relate with, it's people who are approaching life in a certain way, who maybe have some curiosity, who are, you know, maybe not too set on a certain point, are willing to listen and are willing to explore. And so I kind of seek out people who are that way, and even people who aren't, you know, I'm still approaching it from listening and understanding them, even though I'm not them. And so I think it's a little bit more now, as if you're a nomad, about the approach of how you're being a nomad, and that's becoming your community.
Can you have a community of individualists? That's what I always said about my friends in high school. You know, I used to say I don't have any friends. My family's got a lot of friends. And I'd say, yeah, but you know, it doesn't feel like I had great friends. We were really close friends, yeah. But we were really very individualistic. You know? Like everybody had their own thing. We weren't a group like other groups I knew that were very much together as a group. We were more like, you know, equal, but each on his own. That's what I felt. And that's what I think maybe is also about us as a group. I'm not sure it's possible to say, how we, everybody's in a different place at all times. Is that a community?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you someone who has friends in a lot of different circles versus one circle? And are you okay with the delayed gratification where if you don't see someone from one of those circles later, you're still...
I grew up like that. It wasn't even a choice, you know. You move around a lot, you change languages, you change cultures, you don't have the awareness to understand what's going on maybe in the beginning. In the end, you just get used to a lifestyle with a lot of changes and accepting the changes. And then, you know, whoever grows with you, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of, I don't know if that acceptance that possibly other people like of this group that isn't defined exactly yet, maybe we all experience that individualism in a way that might get in the way of becoming a real community. Because I believe the community is about being in touch in the real world, for me. Because, of course, I love online communities, but they're not real to me at all. And the feeling of knowing your neighbor, that's a big deal for me. That's very different. It affects my life way more. Like, you know, I believe that if I had a run-in with my neighbor or somebody online, something happened, I think real world for me is way more important. Personally, and
I think
disagree,
that's
really?
practicality of life, because I agree that we're all very individual and we're independent because we're used to traveling alone and building from scratch at every new place we come to. But I don't know if you agree with me or not, but one of the things that brings a community together is a shared experience. In Russia, for example, we were all united by the Second World War because the Soviet Union basically destroyed all the traditional culture. I mean, we don't have popular songs from the 15th century, we don't have the traditional dressing. But for us, the popular culture are the war songs of 40, 45, and every family in the country got touched by the war somehow. So this is one of the cultural and historical experiences that brings us together as a nation. For me, it's one of the pillars. We have two important holidays, New Year's and the Victory Day. And in this case, when we move around, I think that one of the most important experiences shared for us is the feeling of beginning from scratch every time. What does it mean to move around, to leave your physical friends in one place and find new friends in another, or how to maintain this connection in spite of miles and time difference? We all know how to do that in one way or another. Maybe that
Let me
is
just
something that-
argue one thing about what you said. So, this idea of nation, I see it as a big evil, because it's abused. It's very easily abused. What I see is that under the premise of us as a nation, okay, common songs, sense of humor, whatever it is, that makes us an us, all 60 million of us, is usually a power abuse. So while there is a fuzzy feeling to it, 99.99% of it is bad. Why? Because it's used in order to eventually drive public opinion towards something. What do you think?
I agree, because war is one of the most powerful arguments in politics now, because that's most of the political discourse is constructed from there, from the memory, from the rest of it. But still, there is a personal experience of everyone, of life, of memory, of people suffering, people being...
It's not your memory, by the way.
It's the memory of my family. These are the stories that are told, and I remember my grandfather being operated to pull out the last piece of metal he had in his body. So, for me, it's part of my experience. I remember my grandmother telling a story of stealing coal from a wagon, because my great-grandfather, he was a chief of a mine during the war, but he couldn't bring anything home because it was super strict. So the kids had to go and rob from the same mine to have coal in the house in winter. And there were two kids, my grandmother and her brother, and they climbed the wagons and took the coal down. And somehow, at one point, the wagon moved, and the brother fell, and he got his legs cut off. I mean, that's my experience of the war. It's not the discourse of Russians against Germans or
But this
whatever.
is traumatizing a little girl. That's what they did.
It's her life experience. It's what happened to her. And there are millions of stories. Every family has one.
You were
You were the girl.
Maybe, but how do you tell the story of your life to anyone if you don't tell this part? Because it's important.
The way I see it is I inherited some really bad DNA from my inbred ancestors, as every Ashkenazi Jew does.
Don't look at me, I'm part black.
Or whatever it is. So we are here. Our DNA is what defines us, basically. It's not our signature, it's not our family name. That's it, we're born with that DNA, let's see how far you can get with that. And that's the modern world. And so we are individual in the end, but we are part of a system. We are a herd, we're designed to live in a herd, in a hunter-gatherer environment.
What do you mean how far we can get with that?
It's like you're born. Okay, how far means like you strive to achieve happiness. Let's put it that way. Okay?
I like how you understand. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So happiness can be materialistic, can be emotional, can be whatever. And but it's up to you to get there, right? But where your starting point? Okay, some are starting with financial.
You can have brilliant DNA with a huge depression. Is that good? I don't know.
It's not brilliant DNA then.
Maybe I can give you the opposite view, because I think I'm the only local and I haven't been living abroad, so Fortunately, I live in Barcelona, which is a small city, but it's a city receiving people from all over the world. So I get to know people from everywhere, and some of them become part of my life because they're interested in Catalan culture or Spanish culture. So they become part of my life. So I'm very fortunate about that. But what surprised me a little bit is that you're talking that you're a community, and I think that you've assumed that you're not going to stay in a different place maybe from you were born, but stay there. I assume that you think that you're going to be changing from one.
I don't know, I hope not.
You're not assuming that. It's a question. I'm just asking.
I want to
you.
live on an island in the end. I have my fantasies of what I want and everything, but I don't know what's going to happen. And when they talk about community, I do see something. So please continue, but like I'm not sure.
No, because I was going to ask you if sometimes I find in Barcelona that people from other countries just get in touch with people from other countries. They do not get in touch with Catalan and local. So I think I'm not blaming anyone. I suppose it's quite difficult to do it. We're not so open, so we.
Really? I don't know. I didn't know. I don't know the stereotypes.
Some people do.
It's
Some
everywhere.
people.
It's everywhere like that. The expats hang out with expats, and even then there are hierarchies
Yeah.
of those that are more expats than others. So if you're like, I can tell you, my kids go to the school. They've been
There's
going.
schools only for.
So there's school only for expats. Now,
International schools.
I would prefer to
Yeah.
hang out
Schools, yeah.
with parents who are more likely to stay longer, because what's the point of investing in those who are going to go next year? So there's even hierarchy there.
I have this. In Denmark, half a year at a time pretty much sucks. Like we have cold weather, it's rainy, there's not a lot of light, and I think it's a waste of time being in Denmark. So, but the summertime is amazing. Like right now, everybody's in the streets, and it's crazy fun. And so I have this ambition to live abroad for half a year at a time. I want to have a second home. But then I started thinking, okay, so what is home to me? Like, it's not just having an apartment somewhere else where it's nice and warm, right? And I think I really agree with what you said about these boundaries that are no longer real, but that we're still living by, right? And we somehow have agreed that it's okay to put our kids in a school and only see them 3 hours a day, and these kind of things. So I started thinking, how can I move my home with me to a place where it's nice? And what is home to me? And I think you could, in reality, create a small government, a small community, where you contain everything. So the Danish community, everything is, in Danish government, everything is sorted out for you that you really need, right? So education is paid for, childcare is paid for, healthcare is paid for, and if you don't have a job, you also get petty money so that you can buy food. So you can pretty much live without actually doing anything. That idea is I come from a standpoint where if you're actually motivated, you will do stuff. So the point is, you can actually, home is with my family, with my friends, and with my colleagues, and the people that I interact with. So what if you could move that around? Like, so you have a digital nomad culture, but you moved around with your tribe. And in that tribe, you had everything. You had doctors, you had childcare, you had education. You could even take people that are great with identity and have them teach a class, have engineers.
So there is such a thing.
There is such a thing, I know, but it's a very rare thing.
There is, yeah, but it's not cheap. I mean, you can go the cheap way with the Romas.
Yeah.
What is it, an Illuminati thing?
No, it's just a bunch of I read about it, like 70 people, families, some of them with kids, without kids, young people, whatever, 70, and every 2 months they move country. And they stay, it's all very nice and nice environment. They stay together, they live in the same building or the same, and they...
Yeah, but that's just like changing the scenario, but you're not traveling in the sense that you're not meeting new people.
I wouldn't want to do that at all because I love being immersed. I think that would make it much more difficult for me to connect to the local culture. And so why am I traveling
No, but
anyways?
he just mentioned that as an ideal. I'm
Oh.
saying,
Yeah.
you're
So
not-
I try it though.
I'm not very much into immersing myself into the culture that I'm in. I don't give a fuck. I just want to be with the people that I like. When I relax best with my friends
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my family.
I
So,
agree. Yeah.
but I also do like being in new environments and having new experiences, and going on adventures in a sort of, in a sense that is immersing myself into a new technology, a new paradigm, whatever. But I do think that home is something that you can move around with, and I think that we need to shake the bag that is, deliver your kid in school, pick them up. Why not have them down the hall and you can interact with them, and if they're sad they can
I
come.
haven't had kids, so it's...
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
That's true, but I mean,
No, but
is it a relief that you can
No, the
hand
thing
them
is
over
with,
to
with
somebody
kids,
else?
I'm with you
Sensitive.
psychologically, but I have kids, and so it's like, yeah, there's this dissonance. With kids, it's kind of like they need that order, and maybe not, maybe...
No, they do. They need it.
I mean, but back in the day you had tribes, right? And everybody was helping everybody,
Yeah, but you want the
And-
best
and
for
they-
the kids. You
and
want
they were
them
still
to-
thriving.
The
At
kids
least
need
that's
today
what you heard also.
in order
I'm
to
already-
succeed and aspire to whatever greatness, you want to give them the best opportunity, and the best opportunity involves a lot of study, a lot of
That's true, but
solid framework.
But what
around-
is the type of study that is needed? Because if you look at the best students in the world, is the Finnish students, and they are not doing math and language. And
I agree with you. I know what you're
No, I
talking
agree as
about.
well.
they do projects and immersed projects, and they have experts come in and teach, and they build stuff, and they learn they learn geometry because they're building a bike and they need to build a wheel, and you cannot build a wheel without geometry, and so you have things that you hinge things on.
But something about Finland, which is quite rare. Finland is very homogeneous. They have very low immigration. They're stable, and so they're all educated, pretty much homogeneous and very inbred historically, and so they look the same. So there is a very us about them, and so there it works. But you take a similar thing in Benin, and they're all also inbred. They're also they have, and they're at ground zero. I mean, they're back to cavemen. So there is something which nobody likes to talk about, which is the culture. Okay, it's not quantifiable. Like there is culture that is conductive to modern, to put putting forward, things go forward. Like you say, in Denmark you pay tons of taxes, but you feel you get value for money.
Do you feel Danish?
If I feel
No, I mean, does that, just bring it back to identity, does that make you feel Danish?
no.
Or does that culture in Finland?
I think that so in Finland, the fact that they are doing something together as a group is I don't know if it's because of or as due to or whatever, but there is this thing cannot be ignored. They all speak the same language, they look the same, they act as they are from a very similar background and very well educated, and the leadership is very progressive and modern. And so that experiment works. Also now in Estonia, like there's also a nice social experiment because of this homogeneity. If you throw in immigration and you then and the population grows too much, like Ukraine for example, amazing people, amazing culture, fucked up leadership for 500 years, and so it gets nowhere. I mean, it is thanks to the culture, it is where it is, which is pretty high up there, but it's not Benin. But you can't ignore the culture for a group, for a nation, I think. But the escapism route, which is let's run away, which I am living that way. I basically don't belong to a group. I live in Portugal, but
Why is that escapism?
because
Isn't it like a conscious decision that is like, this is me and I'm groups? Or I belong to several groups. Is that escapism?
I can mirror what you're saying and say it's not escapism. You know, I'm from the States, and in the States, if you're middle class or whatever, you go to college, and then your parents encourage you to move somewhere where you can get a good job. They're not even encouraging you to move back home. And then, so what does that breed for identity? And then, you know, I've been looking. My grandparents are from Iraq. Now there's no Jews in Iraq. And then, so then after that, I'm sitting there in New York trying to figure out what's my identity. I look at my father, he moved from Iraq to Israel to Italy to New York. So I'm still trying to figure out my identity. And then only recently I realized they have this passport you can apply to, which is Sephardic. And I realized my last name's Elias, and what does that actually mean? I never really thought about it until I was 25 or 6 that Elias means I'm Spanish. And then I'm researching recently, Elias, there's a street in Figueras called Elias. Maybe I'm Catalonia. But, you know, what does that mean for identity? And you, on the other hand, saying your escapism, I'm still just trying to figure out where that leads me.
But how much of the identity gets defined from your past or your present, or where you project yourself in the future?
Isn't it also like,
Is it?
yeah, continue.
No, I was thinking the keynote yesterday.
I can't go back, just to say, I can't go back to where my past is.
No, I was thinking about the keynote yesterday, this cyber. And something that struck to me is she said she felt emotionally attached to nature, to Earth, and that is part of her identity now. And she's exploring, she's experimenting, and other people are experimenting. I hear a lot of experiments here. We're all trying to find where to attach ourselves or where to belong, or more local, more global, different things. She's exploring it through technology. And I'm a computer engineer, and I was just thinking, how on earth can you relate to earthquake with a sensor that vibrates? Because I was just seeing bits and bytes, and a qualified sensor put in an earthquake to me would be if you're really grabbing the earth and feeling it. That would need to be an emotional attachment to that sense. But somehow, all that qualified, an engineer that put a sensor, that put it into the cloud, that then comes into her phone and through Bluetooth gets into that sensor, and somebody figured out that it's going to make a movement, makes her feel connected.
Also in it lurks also in low tech, doesn't it? If the priest puts that bread in your mouth, you're experiencing something that people tell you is holy. I'm sure it's like...
Bravo. Yeah, so it's all about what's going to help you project the next version of you, whatever that is.
I think individual, it's a problem because I always feel that keeping your mind free and not, I feel it's a failure to kind of drift into things that you don't understand. Like, how can I explain this? I like to make my decisions in a way that I feel that it's me making them. And sometimes when you belong to a group, you lose some of that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, unless you're defined by how much you let things happen to you.
Well, things will happen.
So maybe,
But my reaction, I want to be like as original and true as possible. I don't know. I sometimes feel that community, I love it, you know, but I also think a lot of the time people don't think for themselves in a way. Like, I don't know, everything in the world kind of tells you not to think individually. Decisions are made for you all the time. You know, like, especially in technology, but I don't want to drift back into the other discussion.
I want to go back a little bit. I have a question for you as well. The starting point today was identity is how we understand ourselves and how we tell ourselves to others. So the question is, do your children ask you that question and what do you tell them? Who are they? Who are we? And how do we explain to other people who we are? And what are we supposed to tell, or what is the essential and basic information that we should give to people when we're asked who we are? Because I think, well, obviously what we do is a great part of our lives, but I mean, I'm Sam and I'm an engineer, tells me nothing. So
my kids, when you ask them, so they've been told to say the following. My mother is Dutch, my father is Israeli, I am Jewish, but I don't believe in God, and I live in Portugal. So that's what the answer. But not out of deep understanding or anything.
But who are they?
9 and
Who are
12.
they?
Who are they?
Who are they?
What are they?
We're still talking about passport tags.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I haven't seen any emergent self-identification there yet. I'd love to get into that kind of conversation, but it's too early.
Maybe you should wait for them to bring it up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because like, if I think, one of the things that I struggle with is the Jewish identity. Because for me, there is, I'm the Antichrist. I mean, I just am anti anything to do with religion. But on the other hand, I do feel some kind of connection, like your stories with the grandmother. I have my stories with my parents and Holocaust and Israel, and I, for example, I studied the Bible as an Israeli for 12 years, but it used to be, now it's less, but it used to be that they taught the Bible in a non-religious way, just as a historical way, analyzing the deep grammatical meaning, the
They changed
meanings.
They changed it?
Now it's becoming more religious, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but it depends on the teacher has a freedom of choice if he wants to
Because it used to be
interject.
exactly like you said, it used to be comparable. Like a part of the test was knowing the different meanings.
Yes.
Like also the non-religious, you could always write the non-religious
So
meanings.
so Israeli would go through this 12 years of studying the Bible, this text, this ancient Hebrew text, and at the age of 6 you get exposed to killing and sex and prostitution and all
Pretty
these
cool,
things.
right?
Amazing, amazing. And you
Revenge.
and revenge, and so basic human urges, human needs, how humans behave, and you get to analyze that and get deep into the inner meaning, and every word has multiple meaning, and cryptology and all this stuff that is emerging from that study, and it has nothing to do with Judaism, essentially, like in the religious sense. It's just something that was a common denominator to all Israelis. And my kids don't get that. Today, where I live in Portugal, if I want them to study the Torah, it will be through a religious avenue, which I don't want to go. So they're not going to experience that. So their connection with Israel will be a very superficial one. It will be, I don't know, friends, families, right? Same thing with Holland or Friesland, where my wife is from. They will, we have an apartment in Amsterdam, so they're going to have a connection there. But that's about it. Otherwise, they're on their own. It's not there is no, I think, identity in the sense of like somebody who works the land. Let's say that. Let's take the extreme case.
The thing here is, I believe we all have the identity, and maybe the difficulty here is that most of us believe, or most of the people believe, that it's related to a passport, and it's not. It's not. I don't think that the identity story we
Some
should
people
tell.
believe it's related to God,
Or this. I mean, it's not.
To God. Like, first of all, I'm a Muslim. Or, first of all, I'm a Scientologist.
For me, maybe that it makes even more sense than saying that I'm an English and I'm a rocket scientist. Because maybe what is more important for me to connecting to a person is to find out what are the basic beliefs and what is the most important things for this person in life. And I'm saying I'm a Muslim or I'm a Jew gives me a vague system of values and beliefs of the person, what he believes in, what he believes in not, and how he would behave.
But what do you guys think we need to define our different, like our identity?
That is my question.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, and from going back to my first comment, it seems that people are suggesting that identity is what are you spending your life doing and relating to, not necessarily your past, unless the past is that relationship you had. And my past involved hearing my grandparents and my parents talk Arabic together. My children will never have that. And they will never, ever have that link with Israel. They'll never be Iraqi or next thing. So it's I think going back to what I was saying in the beginning, the experiences that you're creating and living your life and how you're relating to life is your identity that could be collective identity.
There's an interesting documentary series that's called Through the Wormhole. And they have Through the Wormhole, and they have a episode that is called it's with Morgan Freeman. And they have an episode that's called God Exists. And there is a brain scientist who has found a neurosensor that he can activate with magnet. So he puts people into a room, he blindfolds them, it's dark, and he puts this magnet on their head. And he is able to infuse a profound sense of nearness. So people that go through this treatment, they feel like there is somebody in the room with them, like a greater someone. And his argument is that God got invented so that we could feel connected to a higher entity and hereby define who we are. And I think that's a really interesting theory because we needed something to unite by in tribes. We needed higher laws in order for us to actually not run around and kill each other.
We needed fear. I think it was fear. You know, like who would you be afraid of? The elders were the smartest. What you gonna say? Oh shit, he's gonna beat me up.
It's much more sophisticated. You know the Harari books.
Yeah, I haven't read them yet.
You don't know Harari? Have you heard of them?
Yes.
He has a new one now.
No, Harari. That's like
the
he's a historian. He's an Israeli guy, and he unexpectedly he wrote this book which was
summarization of human history.
Summarization, yeah, it's like 200 pages, summarizes human history. I mean, the thing went viral. Obama was preaching about it, and otherwise, before that book, he was just sort of he was a researcher in history in Jerusalem University.
How do you, is Noah Harari?
Noah Harari, Noah.
Huh?
Noahharari.
So
Yeah.
I want to run with something you guys are talking about. You guys are talking about what people needed as for religion, but I think I might go back to what you're talking about nations. I think it's not the people, it's the leaders, because I don't think there's ever been a leader who's like, let's give up power to another country. You know, this doesn't happen. So the creation of religion and the creation of nationalism is creating an identity by leaders who want to maintain their power and are you want to accept it or reject it.
So regarding leadership, I think as a modern culture, we've managed to curb a lot of our innate caveman things. So we've managed to coexist without impulsive killing and lynching. These are things that are innate to us. You take a bunch of people, an angry mob, and until I think 50 years ago, it was legal, or let's say it was tolerated to lynch someone, to kill.
Look at chimpanzees, man.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like chimpanzees.
Right, so it's something in us. Now we've managed to curb that. I can list 200 of these things that we've managed to curb, these innate group behaviors. One of the things I think we should as society try to curb is leadership. I think that's one of these evil things that leads to no good.
Power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we manage as a society to say leaderless, or some kind of, yesterday I did a little session on that, but the idea is that a leaderless society where you have your voice is heard. So think of a government Facebook, right? Where you whatever you say can and will be heard. You have to be, from day one you learn to be very aware of this place. It's a place where you voice things, but it can and will be used against you. But it's a place where there is a procedure where you raise a concern, anything you want, you raise it, and it's like a public space. It used to be that people in the village would gather in the center and would, talk about anything, and then whatever. So imagine you have this Facebook interface, and then you say, I would like to get more lighting into the street, or I think abortion is evil, or whatever you want. And then there is a process where those things get debated
Voted on.
and eventually voted on for budget. Eventually it's all about money.
Yeah.
And then so kind of democratizing democracy and reducing the scope. There is a really interesting study about the presidency role in America and how I follow the Freakonomics radio every day that I take my kids to school. We listen to Freakonomics. I feel like I'm contributing something to my kids by listening to the Freakonomics.
I bet you are.
Yeah. So one of the things was this study about the role of the President of the United States of America and where it was 150 years ago versus where it is today. And actually wars increased its power. Every time there was a war, they said, we have to, increase the power of the leadership in order to whatever. And then after the war, it was not taken away.
Yeah.
And so
emergency, it's always emergency
like
conditions.
you see
In
now,
Israel
we
too.
saw that now in Turkey, same thing. So what the guy did, Erdogan, he said, okay, we're putting everything in an emergency state, and the role of the president now has a lot more power.
And then
It's not
code
gonna-
red stays like the same.
It's not gonna, whoever comes next is not gonna say, hey, I'm giving back the power to the elected.
We don't need this anymore.
So can I bring you back? How do you think that affects people in the nation's identity?
So, because if you don't have some leadership, that's typically the history of the world is the history of the leaders of the world.
Of course.
Are you talking about implicit, explicit leadership or implicit leadership?
Explicit.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
A leader, a
please
teacher
explain.
can be, a teacher can be a leader, but it's not like he's, or I don't know.
Wait, explain explicit leadership versus.
So it could be appointed, could be selected, could be mandated, or through behavior, there are people that follow. There are things that you throw and arrive to a consensus, and there is somebody that is brave there to put out things to increase the discussion and helps arrive to a consensus, and it's more
Like
of a-
werewolf, sounds like a werewolf game.
Like a what?
Werewolf
Yeah.
game.
There is
Somebody
We did
says
yesterday,
something,
but
there
there
is a
is-
discussion,
There's a leader.
and it's very effective. Like whoever suggests it, it really affects like what the vote's gonna be like,
Right, you impact the system by what you ask
and how you present
and how you
it.
present it, right? So it's not explicit.
It's a very interesting, really interesting guy.
I'm glad I asked.
That's called Catalonia. He's the CEO of Central Partners in Brazil. And he has a TED talk that's called Leading Without Almost Any Rules. And he has a company where the employees set their own salaries. They set their own working date times. The CEO and the leaders are voted for by the manager or by the employees. So the CEO role is shifted around. He's been the CEO and then he's been not the CEO.
He's
now
not
he's the
holocracy.
CEO. now.
There was
He's
another
not
experiment
holocracy.
like that, it's called the kibbutz, it failed.
But this is not an experiment. He's been
But
doing
this is
this for
profitable. This is
He's been
profitable.
doing that for 20 years, and his talk is about what they're doing. And now he's doing a school like what they're doing in Finland. And then there's this other girl. It's just like a TED talk list of videos, and this other girl, she's like radical ideas list, and she's turning democracy on its head by introducing voting via the phone. The adoption. And I could give you my vote. But I think
It's liquid, it's called liquid democracy.
probably. But they also do that in Brazil. They have a party
In Brazil, yeah.
They have an active party that allows to
Yeah,
vote.
so that's yesterday there was a talk. So there is it's called hacking democracy. So basically, to change democracy, that ultimately we need to change the democratic, the parliamentary system and the institutions, because that's ultimately, that, again, if you ask my kids, who are the bad guys? Government.
But it's true in Israel.
Everywhere.
Wait here.
Can I ask you to sum up or some of your thoughts?
Yeah, 1 minute left. maybe we can just do a sum of all of us. To me, what is interesting is the thing that you brought up, how do we define us, maybe starting to define them? Is there a need in an us and them? From now on, it's pretty obvious, but maybe that is a hope of mine, that maybe sometimes we can evolve to not having this separation. And I'm very glad and thankful that you joined this today, and I hope that from now on we can tell our stories better, explain our stories better, and be more conscious of what is important for us as people, and how do we cultivate it in ourselves and in the people who are close to us.
Thank you.